Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Hard 8, starring Philip Baker Hall, John C. Reilly, Gwyneth Paltrow, Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson, and F. William Parker, and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. Now, why am I doing a Paul Thomas Anderson series? Well, he's got a new movie coming out called Phantom Thread that I actually want to see, so it might be pretty good. And plus, it's Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie, so I'm honored to do it. So, yay. So let's get into this. We get introduced to Sydney, played by Philip Baker Hall, offering John, played by John C. Reilly, coffee and a cigarette, and talk about winning some money in Vegas, and Sydney taking John to Vegas, and John wins lots of money on the amount of coins and time he uses to win money in Vegas. It's very good advice, I really like both characters, but Sydney might die down a bit after we find out what happened to John and his father later in the movie. I also like the advice that Sydney gives John on how to gamble advice. It's very good advice, really. Jimmy, played by Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson, remembers Sydney from a game he played so long ago, and I love Sam motherfucking Jackson in any badass or R-rated movie. He's too fucking hilarious to me. Clementine, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, is a waitress who falls in love and gets married to John at the end of the movie. And honestly, I like the character, but I'm not the biggest Gwyneth Paltrow fan. This and Iron Man, I don't mind her in, but other movies, she always thinks up the movies she's in. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays an obnoxious gambler who ends up getting a hard 8 on the dice, but his character annoyed me throughout the scene he was in, and he was only in one scene in the movie, might I add. John and Clementine are married and has a hostage because the hostage wouldn't pay her and hit her. And that scene felt very over the top, and the acting in that scene has a good acting, but still a little over the top. And Sydney tries to calm them down, and John slaps Clementine, not on her purpose, by the way. And Sydney tells John and Clementine to get out of Vegas for a good life, and live someplace in Niagara Falls, for example. Jimmy finds Sydney just to tell him he knows who killed John's father, and turns out it was Sydney many years ago who killed John's father. Jimmy blackmails Sydney for the ransom of $10,000, or else Jimmy tells John, and Sam Jackson is just a badass in this movie until Sydney says he has $6,000 in a safe, which was a good twist, and I actually am entertained by this movie with the cast and Sam motherfucking Jackson. This is a good cast with really good performances by the actors. Sydney kills Jimmy while a hooker was there at his place, not Sydney's place, but Jimmy's place, and lets her go while Jimmy is lying there dead on the floor. Was a pretty good ending, as well as an ending on the diner we opened the movie with, and at the same time where Sydney met John. So, let's get into this rating. I'll give this movie a 7.9 out of 10. This movie has a gambling style with good actors and a good story with good performances. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and I will be back next week with Boogie Nights. And until next time, Sam motherfucking Jackson.